YouTube, what's good? It's your boy, Paul Harris, aka the Crazy Uncle. Hey, guess what? This is your first time tuning in. Go ahead, hit that doggone subscribe button, hit the doggone notification bell every time I post up new content. Look, we got a barn burner for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna talk about Ice Cube. We're gonna talk about the Supreme Court's decision of tearing down affirmative action. We're going to talk about some lab meat. We're going to talk about the shit that happened in Chicago and whatever the fuck else we feel like talking about today. So, all with the hell that I can tell y'all right now, for those of y'all that are going to watch it now, or for the ones that are actually really going to watch it later, all with the hell what the old crazy uncle can tell you is hey, get in your favorite spot, get your get you a tasty beverage, right? Sit back and enjoy the show. So hold on, let me just do this right fast. Well, in another case, right? We are this is well, you know what? Until my friend get on, right? I'm gonna say this a little bit about Ice Cube. You know, he said he's tired of the elite or whatever. But isn't that? But you always got to ask yourself this question: Isn't that the case, right? When you're young and then you ain't got no money, you got a little talent, then you go sign a contract, really not knowing what the fuck you're signing. Now, great the fact, yes, I saw the movie Straight Outta Compton. Get all that, but it still doesn't change the fact that you signed up for this shit, right? So don't bitch now. I mean, here it is. You got your little 3-on-3 basketball organization, but I think, to my understanding, the people that you got playing are nothing more than retired NBA players. And for me, right, I'm really starting. I mean, I always know that professional sports was fixed. But if you ever paid attention to these guys that are actually really playing for this 3-on-3 organization, right? They ain't really shooting the ball as well as they were when they was in the NBA, when everything was motherfucking magnetized, right? So, for the most part, that just goes to show you that, I mean, put like this, I get it. Put like this, the most skilled person, regardless of profession, is not gonna hit every shot, right? They ain't gonna motherfucking tie up every goddamn stitch or whatever. You know, mistakes can and will be made, plain and simple. And so then just like I said, if you haven't seen the clip, go watch the clip or whatever. But the thing about it though is, like, when he also talked about the contract that he did with Black America, and then he was actually like really talking about, and see, there's another thing too. It kind of makes me want to think that Ice Cube was really wanting Trump to get back in there, because he would just say, "Hey, look, the election is about to happen. I don't want to present it to the one. I don't want to go here, right? And then the person that I present this to is not going to be in office." Well, Biden showed up in office, right? And then you didn't hear shit else about the black contract with America. At least I did. Right? So, just like I said, if you want something done, go out and do it yourself. Stop using other motherfuckers' platform. Now, I know I know what a lot of y'all finna say. Well, you know what? You know what, there, Apollos? That's easier said than done. Okay, I get all that, right? But I will say this too, right? Nothing worthwhile was ever easy. Plain and simple, right? So enough enough with the Ice Cube thing, right? Let's go ahead and we're gonna talk about this lab meat. Uh, we gonna talk about this lab meat right fast, right? So, but listen, people, the whole. Okay, here we go, right here. What's good?
How's it going?
Oh, it's going. It's Friday. I ain't got no job, and I ain't got shit to do.
Cheers. Cheers.
you know.
I'll
So
toast to that.
I'm boy, I don't know if you watching the news, but apparently ESPN Sports is cleaning house. They didn't fire like about 10 motherfuckers now. So so
Did they hire I think I heard like some news like maybe it was like 7 to 10 days ago they hired Pat McAfee, like that
they
show,
might
the
have,
Pat McAfee show.
yeah, they might have did, but I know they let Jalen Rose go, they let Keyshawn go, they let Max Kellerman go. They're
Oh
like say,
wow.
yeah, they just like yep, you cut. I don't know what the fuck is going on at ESPN,
Wow.
but they man talk
And
about cleaning
Disney
house,
owns ESPN, right? That's a
huh?
Disney company. Disney
Yeah,
bought ESPN, right?
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting.
So they're like I say, and it's funny that you said that a lot of these channels, like ESPN, right, and 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 BET. So uh, BET falls up under Viacom,
Hmm.
and Viacom falls under Paramount. So so again, and I think to my understanding, Tyler Perry he took over. He is not a new owner of BET. So now I'm
Oh
looking at
wow.
okay, so let me get this straight. You got a man that dresses up as a woman, and now he's the owner of BET. So yeah, so think about that for a minute. So
Well, seems about right. Right on time in this country.
you know, so I'm just like, hey,
Yeah, I
yeah,
heard. I heard. Was it Dave Chappelle? It was a clip probably from like I don't know, maybe like when he did the whole thing when he left the Chappelle show and went to Africa. Like he
yeah,
was saying, like all these stars, they make them, take these roles where they cross dress,
yeah,
and 10. It might have been more than 10 years ago when that
yeah.
happened.
He
Hell,
was
might have.
on Oprah. Yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah. That clip exactly
yeah,
is what I'm talking about. And he was making this, and people were just sort of looking around the room like, "Hey, it's not a big deal. Like, what is this guy? This guy's lost his mind. He's
yeah,
lost his marbles." Well, eventually, if you would fast forward to 2023, the transgender issue is obviously a narrative uh,
uh-huh,
causing multi billion-dollar companies to lose incredible profit.
yeah,
So, cultural problems within our society. And it is on the front page news. It is in Congress. It is on the Senate floor. It is at the White House on the lawn. It is in your kid's school. And it seems to me like little old silly Dave Chappelle wasn't so silly.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because just like say, I did at least two shows last week because they was talking about the Supreme Court. put like this, within the past couple of weeks, they've been shooting down a lot of shit, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
they shut down, because they shut down because they putting what they called explicit books in in the school libraries, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
and so I was just so I did a show. So I'm like, so well, what does it actually really mean to be explicit? See, this is what the Supreme Court is looking at, right? This is no different because I'm thinking like if the Supreme Court would have said, okay, we can't have no explicit books in the library, right? But then it's just like what I said, well, what does it actually like really mean to be explicit, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
How they define it?
yeah, I mean because I could go to any I could go to any store right now that sells magazines, right? And if they got a Playboy or a Hustler in there, yeah, I know it's in there, right? But that don't mean I got to go pick it up and read it, right? Because it's just for the simple fact, it's gonna be titties and ass in those magazines or any magazine that where a woman can take her clothes off and pose for the camera,
Right.
right? So so I'm looking at, okay, where if they do it in the schoolhouse, right, then they're gonna have to do it with the television and every
Hmm.
goddamn thing else for that matter, right? So so motherfuckers mad about that, but hey, look, it is what it is. And then what this what the Supreme Court that did just yesterday, right? They took affirmative action off the books.
Hmm.
So they were just saying that, okay, uh, if for like basically what they're saying, if you want to go to college, fine, right? But we're not gonna. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, when affirmative action first took hold back in the mid to early to mid '90s, I thought it was bullshit then. To be perfectly honest with you, I mean because I get the fact I didn't know as much as I do now about the educational system, how it works and why it works the way that it does, right? But now that I'm a lot older now, and I know that what college is nothing more than a step up from the bullshit that either the public schools or the private schools teach you. So that way, when you do go to college, right, you ain't, well, shit, you're still in the dark regardless. Because, because I look at it like this, right? You whatever motherfucking major that you're gonna, uh, I think what is it, the major or whatever the fuck it is. So they say, okay, what you want to do? What degree do you want, right? So you say, okay, well, I want to be psychology. So you go study all this shit for mental health and all that kind of stuff. But here's the deal. You could be like, okay, well, I ain't got the money. So you go get a student loan, right? Then you carry your ass to school or whatever. And then you ain't even gonna get a half of what the fuck it is that you need to learn in the first place. Right? Because you spend all that time in college, right? You do all that just to get a degree out of 360. So guess what? You 359 degrees short, regardless of motherfucking subject, right? So I'm again, I'm just I mean because you and I both know, yeah, you can go to college and then after so long, right? They done found some new shit, right? So guess what? You got to carry your ass back to school, or whatever and learn what the fuck they found the new shit, and then you going back to work. It's no different than what the fuck we did as air defenders. Just like say, for the longest, all what we had to work on was the motherfucking Pac 2 launching station. Then it went from Pac 2 to Pac 3. And I'm actually really thinking they didn't upgrade it since then.
Oh yeah.
So so I'm just like,
And at the end of the day, when it comes to affirmative action, I don't know if you've seen this episode, but it's a must watch for you, man. It was one of the most intriguing things I have seen in a while. The latest episode of Joe Rogan's podcast was with Ice Cube, and they sat down for about 2 hours and 30 minutes. And man, the conversation they had was incredible. And they spoke about this specifically. And this is coming from two very successful people from two very different worlds who happen to be around the same age, who had nothing to do with each other, who happened to meet at this moment in time and had the exact same opinion on the vaccine, the exact same opinion on a lot of cultural things, but especially affirmative action, where it needs to be about credit, not culture. It needs to be about competency, not color, because it's a changing world and it's an ever changing country for our, in this case. And this idea that someone's holding you back and you're not smart enough is a very low level censorship and sort of a dog whistle, a gaslighting of racism at the finest form. So these people jumping up and down about getting rid of affirmative action is inappropriate, because in a world in 2023, it's non-existent. Because what they're not discussing Asians. The political left is discussing a black and white issue, which is non-existent in the schools today. It's just not the issue. If you look at the demographics in the schools that they're discussing, it's an Asian issue, which is an influx of individuals who come here, get an education, and remove back to their homeland. And you have a situation where migration is flooding the border with non-English speakers who are actually working like in the workforce, who have nothing to do with that. And they're making it a black and white issue, which is on the fridge. It's on the periphery. It's 8% of the actual pie of what's going on. You need people who are competent. And just like we don't care what color you are. Are you in my unit? Oh, you're assigned to a launcher? Great. Can you get the shit downrange? Great. Next. You'll figure the rest of the shit out, generally speaking. Now, if you're like, no, we need a female here. We need a female person of color here. We need a transgender here. We need a brown, a yellow, a red, a white, a purple. Good luck. You're going to end up losing the fucking war. It's not the point.
Yeah.
And I really recommend anyone who's going to listen to this to listen to that podcast, because I knew of Ice Cube and I've been a fan of his, but to hear his story and my God, the stuff he talks about, the vaccines, the affirmative action. Wow. With him and Joe Rogan, those two back and forth, that was incredible.
Yeah. I mean, because he did, I know he did his own little clip and everybody was talking about that. I didn't know that he did the thing with Joe Rogan, but
that was just yesterday. It just came out.
Yeah, but he was talking about how fed up he is with the elites, because he was saying that he's not a part of the club, and then the higher ups they want you to be a part of the club, and then when you
he was saying this. Listen, this is important. You were speaking about ESPN firing people.
Yeah.
How about this? One of the biggest movie stars. Well, he talks about his arc of a career. Everyone knows his prior years from the 80s and whatnot.
Yeah.
But let's just say in the past 10 years, one of the biggest Hollywood actors, movie after movie after movie, with writing credentials, producing, directing, and acting. However, when the pandemic happened, he declined. He was offered a movie with, like, I think it was anywhere from 12 to 20 million guaranteed for an upcoming project, but they told him he had to get vaccinated. To which he told them, no, this is HIPAA. You don't got to worry about what I'm doing. Just test me. And if I'm negative, then I'm going to keep filming. And they were telling him, no, you're going to do this or you're going to lose the movie. And he told them, hey, Pakistan, I ain't doing it. So they said, okay, you can't do it. The second he did that, the phone stopped ringing and he's
Yeah.
straight. Like he was. If you hear this interview, it's incredible. He's straight. He's like, financially, that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm straight. I'm good. The second this happened, he started losing all the deals. And what people don't know, at the same time, he was running a basketball organization called the Big Three, where
Yeah.
there would be retired NBA players and just great players who would play 3-on-3, city to city, the best of the best. And it was very fun, very competitive, game.
Yeah.
They had TV deals, they had everything. Okay, so since then, and publicly, he never came out and said I'm anti-vax. He just told his agents and the people, hey, no, I'm going to have to decline. I'm not going to do it. I'm not taking that shot. As soon as that happened, he loses the Big Three. He's talking to all these guys who are retiring from the NBA. Even Kobe was involved with it before he died.
Yeah.
Obviously, he couldn't talk to Kobe for obvious reasons. Rest in peace. But that's just an example of the type of individuals he was talking to. He was talking to the guys at the highest pinnacle of the NBA. The
Yeah.
NBA gave out a mandate saying you're no longer allowed to communicate with the Big Three. They're a competitive organization, and if you talk to them, there'll be consequences. And he started getting in trouble with the TV deal after he did this vax thing.
Uh-huh.
Same way they blackballed Joe Rogan, and he came
Yeah.
out and just said like and he lays it all out like this is bullshit. This is not fake. This is the first time I've said it like this, but I'm the wrong one. People think it's these kids movies I'm doing now, but make no mistake, where it came from, straight out of Compton. And like he kept going, like I'm not doing this shit. Like
Yeah.
it's not happening. And it is very interesting because the way
Yeah.
they're blackballing people, the same way they treated Joe Rogan or tried to, but he's self-made on Spotify. The same way they're trying to treat Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he's not anti-vax, he's just questioning this specific thing.
Yeah.
And excuse me, I need to stop before I get us in trouble again because apparently some individuals don't like like when I talk like this.
Yeah.
But hey, take it from the horse's mouth. I encourage people to listen to that, but it's nothing that we both didn't know. But it's good to have two polar examples in culture, Joe Rogan and Ice Cube, who, if you look at those resumes and timelines, absolutely incredible. And it's just like, what is this world coming to? And
Yeah.
I'm going to tie it in, and I'll shut up because I'm just on a roll here.
Uh-huh.
The affirmative action thing that passes by the Supreme Court because they've been on a roll lately. They got a hair up their ass. It's funny because if you really think about what they slap down with affirmative action, it makes everyone equal. And this comes out at the same time where they're disclosing everything, apparently, slowly, about UFOs, something other than what? Human beings.
Yeah.
So what do we all have in common? We're humans. Well, the left doesn't like that because we have to have segregation. We have to have divide. It's our political tool, our political football. How else will we, divide and conquer? We must divide and conquer. So I just find a lot of similarities there. And it seems to me like things are fast forwarding at a rapid pace.
Yeah. But I mean, because now I was before you came on, just like I said, I was actually really talking about, the whole Ice Cube thing, and for me, right, and I get it. Everybody at one point in their lives, right, you was young and dumb, right? You were just looking at, hey, look, I'm broke, I need some money. What can I do? Right? So he was with NWA or whatever. And then the message that they was putting out, I mean, now depending on who you are, right? You either loved it or you didn't, right? So always, for me, as far as like gangster rap goes, or whatever the fuck that you actually really want to call it, right? I always looked at it as if a comedian, if the greatest comedian ever, and I'm talking about Richard Pryor right now, I always looked at NWA. If Richard Pryor knew how to rap, he would have been a part of NWA, right? So
Well, it seems like you already seen the podcast because you and Ice Cube got a lot in common with that statement. He
yeah,
said the exact same thing you just said. He said the exact thing Same thing about him, Red Fox, all these guys. And he said this has never been done. And he said, I don't know if this ever been told before or not, but NWA, we didn't, all three of us, we didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
Easy E, and he's like, basically NWA was an all-star team. All we were this like this is way before the internet.
Yeah.
Basically, we all had our own crews and we would just battle rap and stuff like that. And we were
Yeah.
not even doing gangster rap. And we showed up to an event. We showed up to an event, and the promoter was basically like, "Hey, this is a pretty tough crowd. They're not going to want to hear that like little sweet shit you got going, where disco meets, the new what the version of hip hop will be.
Yeah.
You got to get on them." So basically, they were improvising. They were basically freestyling. And him and Joe Rogan basically go like, "You're essentially freestyling. You're
Yeah.
writing on stage." And then he
Yeah.
eventually said, "Hey, this is getting traction. Let's do something with this. I'm an entertainer." But
Yeah.
in the back of his mind, he's brilliant. He's college educated. Obviously, he's brilliant. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Hey, this is what I had to do. It's a performance." And at the same time, there was some political strife in my neighborhood, so we just ran with it. I never designed myself to do it, but it happened.
Yeah. And to actually like really to actually really go back and look at all of the work that what Richard Pryor did, right? You could actually really say that he got on stage, he said what he wanted to say, and then when they tried to put him on television, dude, I mean, I don't know if me and you ever talked about this, but do you know that Richard Pryor is the main reason why that there's a 5 second delay because they didn't know what the fuck was gonna fly out of his mouth next,
I
right?
believe it.
So, so like when he be on Saturday Night Live, and anything, they put that 5 second delay,
Mm.
because
The dump
when
button. That's what they
'cause
call it.
a lot of people are like, okay, well, we don't know what type of Richard Pryor we're gonna get today, so let's put this
Mm.
5 second delay in, right? And then if we can catch it in time, then yeah, we can bleep it out, so on and so forth, right? So, because I've heard, I mean, I figured that was the deal with Ice Cube, but I've heard a lot of other rappers say it. I've heard Chuck D say it. I've heard a lot of other rappers say that, hey, what Richard said on stage was a big inspiration for them to actually really put it on wax. So,
Yeah.
uh, so I think what happens is like what you said with the whole divide and conquer thing, right? The Supreme Court, they shot down affirmative action, and so for me, right, and I said this already. You go to, Sylvester Stallone said it best, because he did his matter of fact, I wait for season 2 to come out, but he doing
Tulsa
this,
King.
the Tulsa King, right? So the
So
guy,
good.
yeah. So basically, what he said, he was telling to the guy, right? He said, "Hey man, won't you go to college?" And he said, "I ain't trying to go to college." So Sylvester Stallone actually really broke this shit down for him, right? He just said, "Listen, the corporate world really doesn't give a fuck about what you major in. They looking at the simple fact, okay, you was a part of an organization for 4 years. You showed up on time to every class. You took notes, you passed, right? That's all what the fuck they looking at. They were like, okay, well, he showed up for 4 years. He or she showed up to every class on time. They give a fuck whether you pass or not, right? You know, it's just for the simple fact, hey, look, you showed up somewhere consistent for 4 years straight. And he said that's why they hire you. They care less about what the fuck you did. They just look at the simple fact that you showed up, right? So, well, then if that's the case, then what about from the time that you fired? Well, at least for me, right? It was 5 years old. So from the time that I was 5 years old all the way up until I was 18, right? So that's 13 years showing up on time, paying attention, right? And so I'm just like, okay. I mean, but we already know what the fuck I did. I did 21 years in the United States Army, right? So basically, all what I'm saying is this: I really don't have a problem with a higher education, right? As long as you actually really telling me the truth. Because again, I also look at it like this: say you go to college, and so basically, all what they're doing is like, okay, well, we gonna put this bullshit in front of them, right? And if they pass, hey, good for you. If you don't pass, then we got a problem with you. You know, Whoopi Goldberg said it best at her one of her very first concerts, and she was all dressed up like a junkie and shit. And so she was like, so she was in the library, right? And she said, I'm in the books because I got a PhD in literature from Columbia, right? And the audience started laughing at her. And so she looked at the audience like, well, I hope you don't think that I was born a junkie. I said, yeah, I got a college degree that I can't do shit with. So I stay high so I don't get mad, right? So it's just for the simple fact, how many people you know right today that they went to public school, whether it was they went to school, whether it was public or private, got your little high school diploma, then you carried your ass to college. You went and got a student loan, right? You did what the fuck you was supposed to do. But by the time you graduated college, right? Wasn't nobody hiring you, right? And so you like, okay, I done spent all this, I done went and got this money, right? Now you telling me you ain't got no job for me? You know? So again, depending on I'm just looking at okay, well, depending on how you look at this whole affirmative action thing deal, right? Me personally, I thought it was bullshit when it came out in the early to mid 90s. I mean, because it's almost like you saying, because here's the deal, right? You put Dr. King up on that pedestal. You put him up so high that you give him on his birthday. His birthday is now a national holiday. And what did he say in the I Have a Dream speech? One day, little black boys and little black girls will get to hold hands with little white boys and little white girls. So guess what? Going to school, whether you want to call it going to school or going to college, that's what the fuck he was talking about. So it's almost like, no, don't put me up here one moment and then slap me down with affirmative action, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying. So I'm just like, well, which one is it? You gonna suck my dick, or you gonna let me fuck you in the ass? Which one is it, right? So, just like I said, so I don't know what the Supreme Court. I don't know. Maybe they looked at it the same way. I don't know, right? But
I think they're doing good shit. I'll be
uh,
honest. I said I think they're doing good shit. If you look at what they've been up to actively,
yeah,
I'll be completely honest. Uh, I was skeptical, like I don't know, a year ago, year and a half ago. Uh, Seems to me like they got it going on because you got two people of color who voted differently on the we'll call it the panel amongst the judges, and
uh,
Clarence Thomas was basically like, yes, I did go to school through this program, but I also had the credentials to qualify for the school I got into. So when I was in that school, I did not like that my peers were looking at me as if the only reason I'm sitting next to them is because of this program that was controversial. If
yeah,
there was no program, I would be sitting there regardless.
yeah,
Whereas the other one, Sotomayor, said I did not have the grade to get in, but I did get in, and look at me now. And it's like, boy, quite the dilemma there, quite the juxtaposition if you sort of think about the future and what the world looks like. The landscape of the 70s and 60s is much different than what we're going to be looking at in the global landscape of 2030. And it's my opinion that people need to start looking at themselves as Americans, and that will start to solve the problem, as you alluded to with what Dr. Martin Luther King had, spoke
Yeah.
about.
So my whole deal is
Because they're
that
going to break it down, and so then you're just going to have to hire transgenders. Then you're going to
yeah,
have to hire this. Then you're going. I identify as a Yale professor. It's like, well,
yeah. And
it's slippery
so
slope.
yeah, and so my because I've because me and my wife we talk about it all the time, and and she would just say, well, baby, why don't you just go? At one point, she's like, hey, look, won't you go back to school? And I'm like, what the fuck for? I'm like, they, listen, they wasn't ready for me 20 plus years ago. What the fuck makes you think they ready for me now? Right? I mean, because I wouldn't, I would be, I wouldn't be a clown or nothing like that. But I would disrupt the class. I would act like really, um, you know, just know everything what they say, right? It's just like, look, I'm gonna be, my hand is just gonna be just up in the air, cause I know
Yeah,
you gonna say something, cause I know you finna say something rather fucked up, right? So my hand would just be was steady constantly being the damn air. I mean, because
and, and that's you said the right word, disruptive. Because really, what you're there to do is gain knowledge, and what shit 90% of the people who are there, whether they're sitting next to you in the classroom or the professor teaching, what they're there to do is run a business. Meaning, if you're a young person in that system, you're there to get out of there as soon as possible and hopefully get into the cycle of corporate America or whatever you're trying to do, or just get paid, as you say. And the
yeah,
teacher's just like, look, this is just my 9 to 5. So
yeah,
yeah, I think that's a pretty wise observation. I know
yeah.
what you mean when you say that.
But have you ever? I know every time we talk, I always reference a movie to you. But have you ever seen the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, so when they was doing the business class, he sit up there, the professor say one thing, he say something else, and then the students
It's a great
they didn't
scene.
they didn't turn around, they listening to him. So I mean, because the thing about it though is when you're in the business world, right, you know what to do and what not to do, right? I mean, yeah, you may take a shortcut here and a shortcut there, right? But my thing is, who would you rather listen to? Would you listen to somebody that just all what the fuck they going off of is what's in the books versus somebody that's actually in the business world as we speak? You know, I'm gonna tend to listen to the guy or the woman that's for one that's actually really got the business and the business is successful versus what the fuck somebody telling me that's coming out of a goddamn textbook. Because again, a lot of my NCOs, right? They were in Desert Storm. So when they taught me how to do a crew drill, it was totally completely different than what was in the motherfucking TL, right? And so, and then when it's my time to go to war or whatever, then I'm like, okay, all what I say is, look, you got 25 minutes, don't fall off the motherfucker, and don't burn up this some bitch. You do that, you'll pass, right? I mean, because the thing about it though is this: do that shit by the book if you want to, and see how many lives did you lose because you too busy doing that shit by the book. And I'd have told them people that plenty of times out of all the deployments that I've been on, whether I was the doggone launcher, whether I was the high crew chief, or I was sitting up there in the goddamn operations center, right? I tell them, I'm like, y'all gonna do what to who? Oh, y'all trying to fuck up every damn body. And then they look at me like, I'm
It's
like, what you
true.
talking about? And so they looking at me like, what you talking about, Sir Harris? Okay, look, you had them folks do that shit by the book if you want. See what the fuck happens.
I remember one time when we were
I'm trying to
just
go
a
back to
just
the
a
house.
just a small example. When we got back to Fort, we got back to Fort Hood, we were doing some training. We're out
Yeah,
there doing like it must have been Table 8 or something. Yeah, it was a Table 8, and they were shifting crews, and people, right when we got back from Korea, they were just shifting crews, and people getting going everywhere else and whatever. So like we got new personnel coming in, old personnel going out. Everyone's got to find their footing. Anyhow, I end up on our stop. I'm like, oh, I've got a problem. I ended up on our stop and ended up on a launcher, ended all over the place. All
yeah,
right, we're out there and placing these launchers, and it's one of these couple day periods in good old Killeen where it is just raining and it will not stop raining. It's just raining, and we're out there and we got this new dude that comes in. He's like an he's in. Oh my god, this dude is in charge. This new E6, and they put him in charge of our stop. We met this dude for 2 days, and this crew has been together forever.
yeah,
And we're there, and like the launchers. I don't have to tell you, but for people, well, I probably shouldn't say some of this stuff. Let's just be very vague. The spacing, let's just say the spacing between launchers needs to be a certain length, right?
yeah,
And we're doing it a certain way.
yeah,
And he comes out with this bullshit, like we're like by the book and board and this, and he's like, no, and he's got his math all fucked up. And we're like, that's not how we do it. We've been doing this shit over and over and over and never first time go, first time go, first time go. This motherfucker comes up and he's obviously off by like, let's be vague, but like by a lot, by like 20 yards.
yeah,
And I'm telling him, and I'm telling him, these guys
yeah,
are running fiber and shit. And I'm telling him, no, 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 no.
yeah,
And he's basically like trying to like establish dominance because like we're close as a group there. And
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. He maybe felt like intimidated and I don't know what the fuck he was thinking,
Uh,
but he just stuck his fucking nose in there. And
yeah,
sure as shit, they come back and guess what? We can't even get this shit started because it's all space fucked up.
yeah,
And I knew it was fucked up. And I'm like, but he's yelling and shit. I'm like, all right, watch this. So then, anyhow, we got like, well, I don't want to say names on the internet. Anyhow, people were just coming up, but just put it this way: one guy that sounded like this, hey guy, and he might have been a master sergeant.
yeah,
Hey, you show up here one fucking day. Hey, Kawan's been here for this many fucking. Just let Kawan do what the fuck he wants. How about that? And everyone can hear shit. You're just in the fucking
yeah.
tents. These are the fucking pop up tents.
Yeah.
And we went back out there, and sure as shit, we put it back out. And he's like, well, that's not how we did it back at Fort Bliss and blah, blah, blah. And it just goes to show you, listen, motherfucker, I get what they do in certain places. Just do what works. Like when
Yeah.
it actually has to work. We never fucking failed. And all of a sudden we got a goddamn problem here. We're sitting in the field for fucking literally 6 more days. They had to start sending people back for showers and shit
Yeah.
because this one guy had a fucking ego on him. It's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous, man. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I have my step count. I know the exact step count. He goes here, I go there, they go there. This is how the fuck we're gonna do this. Roll the fucking fiber, and we're good. Take a little
Yeah.
break. The boys roll in, get everybody hooked up. Let's eat. Let's cut the shit. All of a sudden, this motherfucker wants to come up and give you the good news. It's just like, God, you're gonna get. If this was an actual situation, you can get motherfuckers killed. This is what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I
And
mean,
it's and we're like we're hitting like fucking lime rock and shit, and we're like, hey, we could just dig a trench, put the ground rods, you know what I'm saying, like put them lateral on the ground. And
yeah,
he's like, no, he insisted, so we can only get to it, and we're banging and banging. They're like, what? insanity. But you're going to have people who are like that. But like you're saying, these are people with a master's in bullshit, not a doctorate in reality.
Yeah. And, and so that what I'm saying, that's why I mean because I was telling my wife some of the shit that I did while I was in. And she was like, how I used to talk to people and all the kind of stuff. And she said, baby, you did that. I was like, come on now, who you talking to now? Right? It's so, so it was, it was like so many things, so many incidents that I had that I had to deal with as far as like, hey, look, let me fuck this chicken. You watch the damn feathers fly. Plain and simple. Right? And then they're like I said, because uh I actually like was the R shop NCOIC back at Hood, and then they wanted me to give a class, right? I mean, because everything was competition back then.
Oh
So
yeah.
so I was in Bravo Battery. So we got the banner, best R shop team, right? So they looking at me like, hey, sorry, we need for you to give a class to the rest of the battalion, right? And I'm just like, okay. I mean, but don't get on to me about how I teach the class, right? Don't do that to me, right? Because and then so I just started saying, look, go tell them damn snotty nose officers, right? Hey, Sar Harris giving a class, right? He don't mean no harm, but it's just how he is, right? So, but after you know after you do the shit for so long, you know what works and you know what don't work, right? And so again, I'm just like, hey, look, if you don't do it this way, you're gonna fail.
I
Plain and
wish you would have been there that I swear to God, I wish you would have been there that day with this dude.
yeah,
It would have been it would have been mwah. But the E4s that were there, who the guys that were there before me when I was there under you, just the shit that was passed out. It just I wish you would have been there, just been like in shock and awe. Yeah, actually, you probably wouldn't have bit your tongue. But when this dude rolls in like that, you're like, all right, watch this shit happen. Good for you.
yeah,
And they ripped him a new, and they were not happy from above because apparently they were really trying to get them certified quick.
yeah. I mean, because just like I said,
But they
this
were
is
not used. They were not used to that group not
yeah,
certifying as they should. They were like, "What the fuck is this?"
yeah, and and to actually really to take it back to this whole affirmative action thing.
Exactly.
Look at what me and you did.
There you go. There
Okay,
you go.
so
There you go.
I'm just saying.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying. I'm just looking at. Okay, the United States Army. I can't speak for the other branches, but for me, for the 21 years that I was in, from April 15th, 1997 to 1 January 2018, right? I went in, I kicked their ass. People felt it. And so I'm just like, okay, how y'all gonna treat this individual different than everybody else?
There you go.
This man want to serve his country, damn it, let him serve. So again, right? Anytime when you see this is what the fuck that pisses me off. This supposed to be the greatest country in the world, right? But I'm looking at the fact, okay, anytime when you gotta put a rule in place for somebody to either vote or go to school, that's fucked up. And I
Oh yeah.
can't guess what anybody says, right? I'm a citizen of this country, just like every goddamn everybody else. and then depending on, and then if you actually really go back and really look at this shit, God damn it, I was here, or my family was here before a lot of these bastards came over. So
Oh yeah.
come on now, you're not you're not gonna do this. And so here's the deal. Ice Cube, he goes on the Joe Rogan show. And so my whole deal is this. It's a lot of people out there that think the exact same way that me and you do, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, whoever else that's got their channel, and they see the bullshit that's going on. And so they get on their little platform and they talk just like how me and you are talking right now, right? And I'm almost willing to bet money. If everybody, whether it could be me, you, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, anybody that be like, hey, look, this is bullshit. And actually, like, I'm not saying start a revolt or anything, but I'm just like, hey, look, let's actually like really start putting the shit out there. Be like, hey, look, y'all know this is bullshit. And we sitting up here, we allowing this shit to go on. Right? Because it's just like what that one woman said. She was just like, ain't no such thing as racism because we all come from the same fucking place.
Yep.
Right? And the woman said, it's like, if you think you biracial, raise your hand. She said, don't raise your fucking hand. Right? Because the thing about it though is this, right? Unless your mama laid down with a dog or a cat or a cow, guess what? You human being. Because just like I said, when I was in the EO class, I told him the exact same thing. I said, look, the only biracial person that I know was on television, and that was Mr. Spock. He was half human and half. He the only motherfucking biracial person I know. Right today, everybody else. Look,
Have you ever seen that speech? First of all, I agree with everything you just said, and it's bizarre that we're having this conversation because I feel like this is happening between two people, but it's on the internet, so it's in front of the world, and that's how everything's going to be in the future. But have you ever seen? It's just interesting times. Have you ever seen the clip or the video of Reagan before he started losing it a little bit after the assassination attempt, where he said the only thing that will bring the human race together, something to this effect,
yeah, I know
is
what you're
that
talking about.
if there was an invasion from an
Yeah,
alien cult. And what you're
yeah,
seeing now, which is very interesting, is the government is coming out with all this disclosure all of a sudden, and it makes me sort of think like, man, they're pulling out a lot of stops. They're very sophisticated now. We're very distracted, thanks to the technology. I have like this. I can't really like articulate it, but I have this weird suspicion that they did 9/11, they did
yep,
COVID,
yep,
they did the bank collapse.
yep.
They tried the Russian war,
Don't forget
and we
about
keep.
Pearl Harbor.
I mean, we could keep going. I'm just saying, in
Yeah,
recent history,
yeah,
in my lifetime,
yeah,
we've done these things, and the human species, the culture keeps moving, keeps pushing, keeps growing, keeps figuring it out. The rats keep growing. They just find a way, um, in their eyes, when I use that term.
yeah,
And if you have the technology, simultaneously, you've created a sixth branch of the Department of Defense, which is ironically called the Space Force.
yeah.
Um, you got to put these people under martial law. Well, how do you do that? Well, you cause civil unrest internally with the civil war, like they tried to do in Russia with that Wagner group, that private military company rather. And you let them kill each other. You let the snake eat its tail. And simultaneously, you flank them with something they didn't see coming. What's that? You guys aren't going to believe this. Because what's the bedrock of, I don't care who you are, probably 60%, I would guess, around 60% of Americans are somewhat religious or believe in a higher being. They might not all be the same, but they believe in something higher than themselves and they have an idea of the concept of life and to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
The other people are probably like fringe or sort of indifferent, don't know, agnostic. Some are atheists, some are Satanists, some are who knows what they are. But for the
Uh-huh.
majority, people are sort of in that,
Yeah.
aggregate. You know what
But
shatters? You know what shatters people's morale? You know what shatters um, race issues? You know what shatters society? Is if you're being invaded. Forget by Russia or China to threaten nuclear war. How about even something crazier than that? All the science fiction we've been showing you, all the fantastic things we've been showing in sci-fi and movies and this. Um, we're being attacked by aliens, and the technology is so good in
yeah.
our technology is so good that they can convince you it's War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
I really don't
It's
think
almost
it's
like that.
past them.
What they say, how they say it. What is it? Life imitating art or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah. So
life imitates art. Exactly.
yeah. So that's that. So that's exactly what it
We're
is. But
going to
then again,
Mars. We're going to Mars. We've been to the moon.
yeah.
We've done this. There's UFOs. They're crashing in backyards in Las Vegas. There's spy balloons. There's this. There's UAPs. We have Senate hearings. We have bodies. And then simultaneously the
Mhm.
media apparatus that
Yeah.
is pushing the big media apparatus is pushing out narratives, movies. They put out iRobot, whatever, countless alien movies where
Uh,
extraterrestrials, all this stuff, and then at a last minute maneuver, they're flanking.
yeah.
Um, I think it's something bigger than we think because I don't know about you, maybe because we're getting older and you better than me. I don't mean that
Yeah.
in a derogatory way. You just have more wisdom and time on earth. Like when I look around and I view stuff online, things are getting wild, a little too wild. And I think the powers that be probably know what I know now. I don't know, 4 to 6 years ago.
But you know what though? I tell you this.
Maybe 2 to 3 in our case.
I tell you this, right? Um, before I started saying it, a lot of the greats have said it that no person is born a racist, right? When you're babies, right? And we've talked about this, right? When you're babies, right? And whether you go to the day, whether you take your child or children to the daycare, or whether you take your child or children to your next door neighbor's house or whatever, and they happen to be opposite color of what you are. But the first time that you put them babies on the floor, them babies don't give a damn. They just looking at
Absolutely.
they just looking at somebody that they the same size as me. They crawling on the floor just like me. They drooling at the mouth just like me. They wearing a diaper just like me. But they don't give a damn. They just looking at sit back. Ooh, there's somebody that look like me over there. And so it's almost like so then you grow up and then you go to school, right? And then that's where the separation starts, right? If it don't start at home at first. And I've always said this. And so when that happens, then you have bullshit rules. You have the affirmative action because somebody forgot where the fuck they came from. And it ain't always about being poor and you got a little piece of money and you move out of the hood, right? It's about you being a baby, How were you when you was a baby? You didn't give a damn when you was a baby, right? That's why I tell people. I tell people all the time. I say, look, I am the oldest looking 5-year old that you ever see. Because although it's listen, yeah, I'm 50 years old, right? But in mathematical terms, zero is nothing but a goddamn placeholder. So yeah, I'm probably like the oldest 5-year old you ever ran across. I mean, because again, and I hate to sound like an old broke ass record, right? But when I was in the army, look at not only what I did for you, but for everybody in the unit, right? A lot of y'all soldiers, y'all, and I'm glad that y'all did that. Y'all just levitated to me. Y'all said, y'all looked at me and said, you know what? There's something about this little short, sawed off motherfucker right here. You know, but I'm, you know, but it's listen, it's how I was raised. My mama, both of my parents were dead and gone. And so my dad, and then like I said, I'm second generation army. So my dad knew the deal. So I'm just like, okay, so sometimes I'm like, okay, what really gives me? What the fuck is going on? And then I always go back to what that one guy, he was a Marine. Uh, he was in full metal jacket. And then he actually came out and said it. He said, look, every
Oh
American, every American, once they turn 18, you should be required to do at least 3 years of service to go outside of where the fuck you was born at, right? Go see the world. Hell, I told my daughter that. Look, you ain't finna accomplish shit here in Little Rock, Arkansas. Get your ass out of the state of Arkansas. Go experience some shit. It's the same thing I told my son, right? Go experience life. Go branch out. Don't stay where the fuck you was born at. Carry your ass somewhere and meet new people. Because I'm gonna tell you something.
so important.
If you
So
keep
important.
your ass here, if you keep your ass here in your point of origin, you ain't gonna know shit.
Mm.
I'm putting it out there. I'm like,
No, I agree with you.
yeah. I mean, because I sit up there and I listen. I listen to what my dad said, and at the time, I'm like, look, I ain't trying to listen to you, right? But he kept on and kept on and kept on and kept on, and I was like, all right, David, I'll go join. And it was one of the best things that I ever did. I'm a better person for it. That's why I wrote that book.
Yeah.
So it's like if people, it's almost like some people are scared to be a goddamn success. And I'm just like, the fuck is wrong with y'all? Hell, I did it. I mean, okay, if listen, I get
No,
it.
it's
If
a
you
great
so-called
question,
black
and I think
man,
it's a lot more common than people think. What
yeah.
you just truly is.
Because I mean, I get it. If you a so-called black man, and then you be like, well, I don't want. I'm a black man, so I'm gonna go get me a black woman. Okay, I ain't got no problem with that, right? But how about you kill your ass across state lines, or go get on a plane and kill your ass across that water? See what's over there, right? And then if you don't like what's over there, then bring your ass back here. Go marry your black woman, even though she might be as crazy as fuck, right? But I
That's
just look
wild.
like
That's
this.
wild that you just said. By the time I was 18, I went from, well, I, I grew up traveling, but
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I grew up for most, let's just say, K through 12. I was in
Uh-huh.
Florida. And then when I turned 18, I went from here to Oklahoma to Bliss to Hood to Korea. And when I would get back on leave, there would be something that would happen.
Uh-huh.
I'll be really excited, obviously, because
Yeah.
you got a little money in your pocket. You have some status within your peer group, not in life, but within your
Yeah.
friends who are still doing the same shit you were doing when they left. That
Yeah.
little group of people, and you're happy to see them. But then, after I don't know 6 7 days, you're looking around and you're going, this guy's still doing the same shit, huh?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, well, that's fine. Then you go distract yourself, you get fucked up, do something. Time's ticking, and you meet with family members, and that's good. That's great. Then the time's ticking, and you're thinking, okay, time to go back to work. Get back to the unit.
Yeah.
And it was a surprising thing because you were ready. Well, I'm sure certain people weren't, but I was at least. Like I was ready to get back there. And I really think to myself, now that I'm back here after literally being around the world doing that, trials and tribulations, it's invaluable, like you're describing, because it gives you perspective on what's going on out there and what this thing really means. And I talk to a lot of people who have never left, and I don't look down on them per se, but unless they have like a ton of issues or this and that, they've been doing the same things and they're miserable. I always think to myself, I'm like, man, you should have joined the army. And I've had a lot of my friends who are in the same graduating class that I was in, the same area that I'm in, who have pretty good jobs, decent jobs. Some of them own companies. They're making a good living. They're married,
Mhm.
some divorced, some back and forth. And believe it or not, probably 4 out of 10, and those are people who actually just said it out loud. The real number, just because they haven't said it, is probably 6 out of 10. But 4 out of 10
Yeah.
realized, man, I wish I would have joined the army like you did. Literally, they say that as men who are in their mid 30s who are doing things. And yeah, I don't regret it for a second. And I would encourage a lot of young people to do that. And our country needs it. And
Yeah.
apparently, they have a recruiting problem right now, which blows my mind because it's like, if you really just hold it together and do what you need to do and just get your ducks in a row, like that could take you a long, long way in life if you do what's necessary.
Yeah.
And if you're aimless, it's one thing if you're going to go start a business or a career or you got this thing going on or you have no desire. That's completely fine. You need that too. But if you're sort of just like aimless, borderline depressed, out of shape, or getting out of shape, you should really focus on a goal and go see a recruiter if you're eligible, and if you're have even like the inkling. If there's just like a little knock at the door, just a little, go do it because that's going to turn into a pounding in a decade, and you're going to
Yeah.
wish you would. I believe that.
Yeah. I mean, it's and we talked about this.
If it
It's
doesn't work out, come on back home, like you said.
yeah. It's but the thing about it, though, it's a beautiful thing. Um, I I got three nephews, and all three of them they either in their 30s or they in their late 20s going into their 30s. And actually one of them actually like one of them he actually really served. Matter of fact, he was in Fort Hood the same time that I was, and I didn't even realize it. So, but
Oh wow,
but my whole deal is
ladies and gentlemen, that's the biggest base on the planet, by the way.
yeah, and
What do they call it now? Fort what? Fort something?
I forget. It's Castle something. Castle. It's named after some Hispanic guy. I think.
Hispanic general or something. I can't remember the name for some reason.
Yeah. But I was sitting up there.
Oh, there it was Fort Hood.
Yeah. But I was sitting up there and I was talking to him, right? And My wife, she watching me the whole time as I'm talking to all three of my nephews, and I was telling them, the army stories, the places that I've been, all this kind of stuff, and actually, I really just try to get them past the experience that I had on to them, right? And just like I said, she said she was watching the whole time. And then once we finished talking or whatever, and then I went to where she was at, and I mean, she kissed me, of course. And so I'm just like, what was that for? Right? And she just said that, she said, I never seen those three stay that damn still that long when somebody was talking to them.
Mm.
And I was like, and so me, I brush it off. I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And she told me, she said, no, she's like, no, I'm serious. I'm being serious with you right now. They got me, they my nephews, I love them to death. And then they're like say, every chance they get, they looking for me or what have you. And then, I'm just like, well, what you want to know? Right? So I'm just, it's just for the simple fact that in life, you catching it. You always catch it, right? And then some of it that you don't want, some of it that you do want, but you don't get enough of, right? And so in 50 years, right? I mean, great the fact, well, let's just say in, let's say 35 years. In 35 years out of the 50, right? That's all what the fuck I've been doing. I've been catching it. I've seen a whole lot. I've done a whole lot. And so I'm just like, and I've always asked questions. See, that's what happens with a lot of people. A lot of motherfuckers don't ask questions. They just accept shit for what it is. And and just like I said, I come from a time frame where everybody in the neighborhood watched you, right? It was like that once you went outside, you knew you was good because somebody was steady constantly watching you. And it's just for me, I know that we'll never get back to that. But I felt like if we did, shit would be a hell of a lot better. I mean, because it's almost like don't nobody trust nobody no more.
Oh no, it's
Right?
always there's always a by the way.
You know,
Well,
I mean, because and then again, here's another thing too. On that corner of Maple and Maryland, right? Everybody had the same shit. So I'm just like, okay, so you breaking my house, okay, motherfucker, I got the same shit you got. I mean, but we everybody knew each other. I went over my friend's house to eat. They came over my house to eat. I mean, that's just how it was. I'm just like, so what the fuck happened?
oh,
I mean, I know what happened.
fall of Rome.
Yeah. I mean, it's back then you knew who a female was. You knew what a man was. I've been out all this morning, and I done see some motherfuckers, and I'm like, I'm like, no bullshit. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I know, man.
I'm just saying,
And
you know.
especially if you add the internet to it, it's just like we're seeing different pockets of America. I watch YouTube videos. I don't know how it gets on my feed and the algorithm, but like on like YouTube Shorts, like it's just
Yeah.
short clips, and it's like pockets of like these areas in California that are just like, or like hell, even Louisiana, like in I don't know where it is. I think Baton Rouge or somewhere, but it's just like this sort of gritty areas, Memphis too, where like these guys are just posting these gang videos, and
Yeah.
it's like this culture of in and out of prison, gang violence, mental illness, is what it is, crime, violence, and mental illness. I could see one thing. It's like you got to do what you got to do. This is just like it's becoming too culturalized. I'm sure it's been there for decades, but the way it's being publicized on YouTube, and that's okay. I don't get it. I don't think it's good. I don't think it should be accessible. Uh, I get if you lived in that area, what would you have to do to survive? But it being publicized, I don't understand how YouTube has a problem with that and not other things. It's so problematic. As
Yeah,
somebody,
and how they took down my shit. I was
that,
like,
okay, but okay, but you could call threats as a gang active gang member, literally bona
yeah,
fide, to another one and make it cool and cultured and use copyright music and continue to do it, and that's fine. I'm like, what in the fuck? It's sickening to me. Sometimes I just turn this shit off and just try to look. Let me look at sports. Let me look at like get my mind off this shit. I could go look
yeah,
at fucking bodies blowing up in Ukraine. I could go. It's just like, what is this shit?
yeah,
And it's just like it's bizarre. Anyhow, we're long winded, and I need to go eat. So
yeah. Me
we need,
too.
we need to do some homework. We need to do some homework before our next podcast, which I'm down
Okay.
for whenever. I got an open schedule. On the 5th, I got something, but holiday weekend I ain't got nothing. But on the 4th, we're gonna go for a cookout, but nothing's going down on the 4th. But I want you to watch that Joe Rogan Ice
Yeah, I'm gonna
Cube.
watch that. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that.
You have the only way you could get it is on Spotify. It's free. But you have Spotify?
Oh, it ain't like that. I can't download it. But yeah,
No, what I'm saying is like Joe Rogan because they canceled that motherfucker. You know, literally, the only
yeah.
place you can get it is on Spotify, which I don't even understand that. They're taking his clips down off YouTube now too. Usually, you could just watch the JRE clips on YouTube and just get like the best parts of it. They're starting
Uh,
to take it down. Anyhow, what would you recommend me to check out before our next show?
well, um,
Something
honestly,
plus, you know?
honestly, like this, because a lot of my stuff is based off of a lot of my stuff is based off of Star Trek, the original series.
Okay.
So, so if you got Paramount Plus, shit, just go and find Star Trek, the original series, and start watching. You know, I
Well,
mean, because
in particular, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not watching that whole motherfucker.
okay, then, well, I think what
I mean, is
go
there a bunch of episodes, or is it just like
no, I think what watch. Is one on the original series that I want you to watch.
okay,
It's called Court Martial.
got it?
Watch that one, and then on the next generation, I want you to watch the one. It's called Measure of a Man.
Okay.
Uh, those are the Measure of a Man is a damn good one because it's this one guy. He wants to take data, which is an android, break him down, and start constructing more. And so, but it's a real good one. It's a real good one because everybody was against
How long are the episodes?
45 minutes.
I can knock both those out. That podcast is about 2 hours.
Yeah. So then, like say, on the original series, watch Court Martial, and then on Next Generation, watch Measure of a Man because
Is Next Generation like the P card one or no?
the Next Generation is the Picard one. But then, like I said, watch those two episodes
Mhm.
because it's how they're presented, and then especially with court martial, the higher ups, right? And then they put the camera on each and every last one of those people, Meaning, you saw a Mexican American, you saw a Native American, you saw a Mexican. I mean, every so-called ethnic background that there is. They was the higher ups of Starfleet, right? And so they listened to this guy.
Basically, don't spoil it for me. I want to
Yeah,
watch it.
yeah, but this watch it.
Basically, what you're saying is it's affirmative action, and I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much that's what it is. It's,
I
it's,
know.
it's so yeah. So watch those two.
I
Watch
will
those
watch
two episodes. Watch those two episodes. I'll download Spotify either on my TV or on the phone, and I'll watch the Joe Rogan thing.
good shit on there.
Yeah. So
I watch a bunch of shit on Paramount.
yeah. So yeah, Paramount Plus is you catch the Star Trek. So yeah. So yeah, man. Just watch those two, and then I'll watch the Joe Rogan piece with Ice Cube, and then uh, when the next time you try to get when the next time you try to get together on this?
Shit, I don't. I mean, maybe Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday's good. I ain't gonna be doing nothing on Sunday.
Sunday. Either one of those are good. On the
Well,
fourth.
yeah, let's just do. Yeah, let's shoot for Monday because
Okay,
I don't know
perfect.
what the hell the wife got going on. She ain't told me shit yet, but let's just shoot for Monday.
Yeah, Monday will be good for me. We'll get the details laid out, but Monday should be good for me.
Okay then.
All right, beautiful man. Always a good
All right, man, I'll
conversation.
talk to you.
All right, peace.
Yep. All right, y'all. Another fantastic show, as far as I'm concerned. And again, for those of y'all that are actually like really all up in the air or mad about this whole affirmative action bullshit, right? Uh, Listen, people, just know this. And I'm actually really talking to the so-called black folks right now. You walking around here thinking or calling yourself African American, right? It's quite obvious that you don't know who the fuck you are, right? And it's just for the simple fact that y'all already know how I feel about education in the first damn place. And so, and we actually really talked about it throughout this show. That what Whoopi Goldberg said, right? So let's just actually really stop and just think about it for a minute, right? For whatever fucking reason, people thought that you couldn't go to college, right? But then I have to ask this all important question. So way back in the day, when there was a whole lot of us that was in Congress, they went to college. And so it's almost like, okay, everything was good back then because people went to college. So I'm just like, so through the course of time, when people was like, oh, we making progress, knowing, but in all actuality, we was digressing, right? You had less and less of us in Congress and less of us going to college, right? So you almost got to ask yourself, so what happened between that time, so-called slavery time, and then the time when we were supposed to be free, right? Up until now. Well, rules got to be motherfucking in place. I mean, listen, I know that everybody wants to better themselves and all that kind of shit, right? But my thing is this, and this is to the higher ups, the ones that y'all put in office. If, and again, and it's the same thing with voting, right? Anytime when you got to put a motherfucking law in place for me to vote for you so you can represent me, that's a motherfucking law that you can keep. I don't want it. If I change, if like this, if I can't just get up and go to the voting booth and vote for whoever the fuck I want to, then I don't want that. Don't put shit in place for me. And it's the same thing with the motherfucking affirmative action, right? If a law got to be put in place in order for me to go to school, just for y'all to teach me the bullshit that's going on now, right? Guess what? That's a law that you can keep. That's why the Supreme Court shot that shit down. Because it shouldn't be like that. You want to go to school, go to school. Get them motherfuckers out of there. Because the thing about it though is this, people. You gotta ask yourself this all important question. Who's really putting this bullshit in books? Because there's no half the shit that is being taught, whether it's in college or public school, half that shit, if not all of it, is bullshit. Plain and simple. And then y'all wonder why y'all can't get no damn job. But hey, guess what? I'm just a $5 guy. I'm retired. I ain't gotta worry about it no motherfucking more. Well, at least in a sense I don't. But hey, it is what it is. So guess what? Guess what the fuck y'all get to do? Tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell Big Dad, tell Big Bertha, your uncle, your auntie, your grandma, your papa, motherfucker next door, cross street, riding corner, Paulus Harris, aka Crazy Uncle. Yeah, till next time.